Okay, think about this for a second. That drill you've got in the garage, or, the saw maybe you used for that deck project last summer, even just a power screwdriver for putting together furniture. These tools, they're kind of the unsung heroes, right?
Hmm.
They literally power so much of our modern lives, big projects, small ones. But have you ever really stopped to think about the actual industry behind them? Because it's massive and it's growing fast. So today, that's exactly what we're doing. A deep dive into the electric power tools market. We've got insights straight from a pretty comprehensive market report, and our mission really is to unpack the impressive growth path it's on, looking at 2021 right through to 2033. We want to go beyond just the raw numbers, though, explore the regional stuff, market performance, and what these stats actually mean, for industries, for us as users, and, well, for the future. Think of this as your shortcut to getting clued in on a surprisingly powerful sector.
Okay, let's unpack this. So to really get a handle on the sheer size of this, let's kick off with the big picture, the global figures. How big are we actually talking here?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you look at the scale and the speed of the growth. So the global electric power tools market back in 2021, it was already pulling in nearly $15 billion. Let's see, the specific number was $14,988.8 million, which is substantial, right? But it's not just growing, it feels like it's accelerating. If you look ahead just to 2025, the projection is over 22 billion. But the really big jump happens by 2033. The forecast then is, get this, almost $48.5 billion, 48,461.4 million to be exact. That's basically tripling the 2021 revenue in just over a decade. And it works out to a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 10.273%. So you're looking at consistent double-digit growth year after year.
Wow, over $48 billion. That's just a massive number for tools many of us probably just, have sitting in a shed. It really makes you wonder, okay, what is driving all this momentum globally? Where's it all coming from? Maybe we can break it down by region. Let's zoom in on North America first. That's obviously a huge market. The report shows it at what? Over $4.3 billion back in 2021, and that's projected to climb past $6.2 billion by 2025. Then by 2033, North America's expected share is almost $13 billion. That's $12,987.7 million, maintaining a solid KGR of 9.646%. Still very strong.
That's right. And within North America, the report gives us the country breakdown too. The U.S. is naturally the biggest chunk. It started at over $3.6 billion in 2021, and that's projected to grow to over $10.7 billion by 2033. But it's expected to hit over $1.2 billion by 2033. And its CGR is actually higher than the U.S. at 10.595%.
Over 10.5%.
Its CGR is actually higher than the U.S. at 10.595%.
Over 10.5%.
Yeah. So stronger growth rate there, maybe, driven by housing, infrastructure specific to Canada. And Mexico is also a significant contributor, moving from about $331 million to over $1 billion by 2033. Its CAGR is also strong, 9.84%.
Okay, so Canada's actually outpacing the U.S. in growth rate, even though the U.S. market is much larger overall. That's a really interesting detail. Suggests some specific things happening up there. All right, let's pivot now. Let's jump across the Atlantic. Europe. This region also showing really solid expansion. It logged over $3 billion in 2021. And the forecast sees it growing to over $9.2 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of 9.778%. Again, very healthy.
Europe's quite diverse in its growth pattern. You've got the UK, for instance, projected to reach nearly $1.35 billion by 2033. But Germany really stands out in this sector in Europe. It grew from over $638 million in 2021, and the projection is over $2.08 billion by 2033. And its CAGR is particularly strong at 10.468%.
Over 10.4%.
Wow, exactly. That probably reflects, Germany's strong industrial base, manufacturing, construction investment. France is also showing significant growth, nearly $1.4 billion projected by 2033. Italy and Russia, their expansion is a bit more moderate. But it's worth noting there are several other European countries with quite considerable growth projected by 2033. Spain's looking at over $683 million. Sweden, over $577 million. Even smaller economies like Denmark and Switzerland are contributing over $350 million each. And then you have Luxembourg and the rest of Europe adding over $1.3 billion combined.
Okay, so Germany's definitely the powerhouse there, but the growth is really widespread across the continent. It highlights just how universal the demand for these tools is becoming. All right, now, hold on. Because the Asia-Pacific region, this is where the report says the highest compound annual growth rate is globally, is that right? We're talking a surge from over $5.6 billion in 2021 to a projected, wow, nearly $19.5 billion by 2033, 19,481.5 million, with a KSR of 10.924%. That's striking.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Asia Pacific is, well, it's a major engine for this whole market. China's, leading the charge within APAC.
Yeah.
It jumped from $1.55 billion in 2021 and is expected to hit $5.5 billion by 2033. That's the highest regional CAGR, 11.147%.
Okay.
But then there's India. India is honestly quite remarkable in these figures. It goes from about $854 million in 2021 to over $3.2 billion by 2033. And its CAGR is an incredible 11.74%.
Wait, 11.7%?
Yes. And just to put that into perspective, that is the highest growth rate among all the individual nations covered in this report.
Oh.
Globally.
Oh, wow.
It just points to a massive surge, likely in construction, infrastructure development, maybe even a growing DIY culture as its economy really expands. Japan, South Korea, Australia, Taiwan.
Yeah.
They also show really strong numbers, adding a lot to the regional total. And keep an eye on Singapore, too. It's smaller, but it's set for very rapid growth, reaching over $750 million by 2033, with a CAGR over 11.2%. And then you've got Southeast Asia collectively adding almost $2 billion by 2033, and the rest of APAC adding nearly $1.9 billion.
That Indian growth rate, 11.74%, that really jumps out. It highlights just how dynamic that market is right now. That's a key thing for anyone tracking global trends, honestly, not just power tools. Okay, so we've covered North America, Europe, Asia Pacific. Our global tour needs to touch on South America, the Middle East, and Africa, too. Growth is happening there as well, right?
Yeah.
These are important regions in the overall picture.
Definitely vital. You can't ignore them. South America, for instance, generated almost $870 million back in 2021. It's projected to rise to nearly $3 billion, $2.9 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of 10.6%. Very strong. Brazil's the leader there, expected to reach over $1.16 billion by 2033. Makes sense. Big economy, lots of development. Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, all adding significantly too. Then the Middle East. That market was around $660 million in 2021. Expected to hit almost $2.2 billion by 2033, with a CAGR just under 10.5%.
Right.
Saudi Arabia is a key player there, projected over $621 million. And the UAE actually shows particularly strong growth, over 11.2% CAGR. Turkey, Egypt, Qatar also contributing. And finally, Africa. Its market is forecasted to grow from nearly $500 million in 21 to over $1.6 billion in 2033. The NGR there is 9.814%. And within Africa, South Africa really stands out. Projected to hit over $635 million by 2033. Nigeria is also a key market.
It's just so clear this isn't, just happening in one or two hotspots. This growth is everywhere, established economies, rapidly emerging markets right across every continent. Okay, so we've seen all these numbers, impressive growth, double-digit KGRs pretty much across the board. But let's connect the dots. What does it all mean? What's really fueling this huge global surge in demand for electric power tools?
Right, and if you sort of synthesize all that data, it's clear these aren't just like random booms in different places. They're deeply tied into bigger global shifts.
Right.
The report points to a few main drivers. First, you've got rapid urbanization, just huge demand for new buildings, infrastructure in cities everywhere.
Right, construction.
Yeah, exactly. All those building sites need drills, saws, grinders, you name it. Second, DIY trends. That's massive. More people are tackling home projects themselves, probably helped by, online tutorials, easier access to tools. So consumer buying is way up.
Yeah, I can see that.
Third, infrastructure growth. Governments everywhere are spending big on roads, bridges, public transport, utilities. All that requires heavy-duty power tools on a huge scale. And finally, something we haven't talked much about yet, smart technology integration. Things like better cordless tech, IoT features, longer battery life. They're making tools way more efficient, safer, more versatile. That appeals to pros and hobbyists alike. So you have all these factors kind of converging, and it creates these, well, the report calls them electrifying opportunities, which seems fitting, for manufacturers, suppliers, investors. And it applies in developed economies and emerging ones. It's really broad-based surge.
Okay, so it's this mix of building booms, home projects, big infrastructure pushes, and smarter tools themselves. So whether you're, a pro on a job site, a weekend DIYer, or frankly just someone interested in how the global economy works. The electric power tools market is clearly powering ahead everywhere, showing this consistent, strong growth. It's really eye-opening, actually, how much you can learn by diving into a market that might seem kind of niche at first glance, uncovering these surprising connections.
It really is. And it raises a pretty interesting question for the future, I think, as this smart technology keeps getting integrated, even into our basic tools. How might this market evolve even further? Maybe beyond just power. Could it shift our whole definition of what a tool can actually do in the next 10 years? And maybe even what industries it starts to impact.
It's a great thought to end on. It definitely makes you think differently about those tools in the garage, right? And how they fit into these bigger economic shifts that, well, they affect all of us in one way or another, even if we're not directly involved in that industry. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. You know, you might not give them a second thought, those drills and saws tucked away, but they're actually right at the center of this incredibly dynamic market.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating when you dig into it.
Okay, let's unpack this. The high-powered momentum behind the electric power tools market. This deep dive, it's all about a sector that's really defined by innovation, convenience, and, well, serious demand.
It is.
Our mission really is to pull out the key insights from all the material we've looked at, give you a shortcut to getting up to speed.
And building on that, it's genuinely fascinating how these everyday tools, things you use around the house, are actually central to these big global economic shifts, even societal ones.
Right.
So we're going to explore what's driving things, maybe some of the unexpected challenges they face, and where it all seems to be heading. What's fascinating here is how these everyday tools are actually central to global economic and societal shifts.
Exactly. And we promise we'll dig up some surprising facts, maybe a little humor here and there, keep you hooked.
Sounds good.
The goal is you learn quickly, but, properly. Here's where it gets really interesting.
All right.
So let's jump right in. What's actually fueling this growth? The main drivers for electric power tools.
Well, one of the biggest and maybe the most obvious one is just the sheer boom in construction and infrastructure projects globally.
Right. Building everywhere.
Exactly. Cities are expanding, housing projects are multiplying, and you just need tools that give you speed, accuracy, efficiency. It's almost non-negotiable now.
Makes sense.
Yeah, whether it's huge commercial builds or someone renovating their home, these electric tools, they've become indispensable.
Yeah.
For builders, contractors, sure, but even homeowners. And their versatility is key too. Drilling, sanding, cutting, you name it. They're really at the core of how things get built today. It's a need that just, well, keeps growing.
And something that often gets missed, I think, is that it's not just the professionals driving this anymore, is it?
No, absolutely not.
We're seeing this huge surge in DIY home renovation projects.
Oh, definitely.
You think about platforms like YouTube, Pinterest, they're just full of inspiration.
Right, endless ideas.
And the pandemic really poured fuel on that fire, didn't it? Suddenly everyone's a weekend carpenter trying to build that shelf they saw online.
Yeah, or revamp the kitchen. We saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
More and more consumers are grabbing these compact, easier to use power tools.
So it's really democratized it in a way.
I think so. It's put these capabilities into more hands. Building a shelf, redoing a whole room.
Yeah.
Electric tools are the go-to now for a whole new generation.
Okay, so DIY is huge. What else?
Well, what enables both the DIYer and the pro is the tools themselves are getting so much better. Which brings us to the third big driver, technological innovation.
The tech side. Like what specifically?
We're talking advancements like brushless motors, really advanced lithium-ion batteries, even smart tool connectivity now.
Okay, brushless motors, what's the big deal there?
So basically, they reduce friction inside the motor. Less friction means less heat, which means the tool lasts longer. And crucially, it uses the battery way more efficiently.
Got it. More runtime.
Exactly. And that efficiency boost, that's really what allowed cordless tools to finally reliably match the power of the old corded ones, sometimes even exceed it in flexibility.
So no more tripping over cords, mostly.
Pretty much. They're lighter, often more durable, just more efficient overall. It's genuinely been a game changer on job sites. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these innovations aren't just slight improvements.
Right.
They offer much better performance and, frankly, more reasons for both pros and hobbyists to upgrade their gear.
Okay, so growth sounds pretty strong, driven by construction, DIY, better tech. But it can't all be smooth sailing, right? It's not all smooth drilling.
Yeah, no, definitely not. There are definitely challenges.
Like what?
Well, one pretty significant one, especially for regular consumers, is just the high cost of the really advanced tools.
The price tag.
Yeah. The more high-tech you get, the more expensive it is.
Yeah.
Professionals, they might see the long-term value, the ROI,
Sure, pays for itself eventually.
Right. But everyday users, especially maybe in more cost-sensitive markets or developing regions, they might just find themselves priced out.
So they stick with older tech or manual tools?
Sometimes, yeah. or maybe pneumatic tools if that's an option. Affordability is still a major factor.
That's a really interesting point. Does that high cost sort of slow down how quickly the newest tech spreads everywhere? Or are companies making like different tiers of tools?
That's exactly what's happening. You see more tiered product lines appearing to bridge that gap, but cost remains a hurdle for the top-end stuff for many.
Okay. And then there's the practical side, right?
Yeah.
Maintenance, durability, especially when these things are getting hammered day in, day out on a job site.
Yeah, absolutely. In heavy-duty environments, tools suffer. You see things like motor burnout.
Just fries itself.
Pretty much, yeah. Overheats and gives up. Or
Yeah.
battery issues. Suddenly your cordless tool is useless until it's recharged, or you swap batteries. And just general mechanical failures from wear and tear.
And that means downtime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Increased downtime, repair costs.
Yeah,
That's bad news when productivity is everything. Time is money, right?
definitely. What else?
Well, another big one is health and safety risks. We can't overlook that.
Okay, how so?
Prolonged use. Think about vibration. Constant vibration can lead to nerve damage in your hands over time, something called hand-arm vibration syndrome.
Ouch.
Yeah. Or hearing loss from the noise, repetitive strain injuries like carpal tunnel from doing the same motion over and over. Even simple DIY stuff can be hazardous without the right gear or knowledge.
So regulations must be getting stricter then.
They are. Regulatory bodies are definitely putting more pressure on manufacturers about safety standards, which is good, necessary even. But it adds complexity to production, adds costs. It raises this important question, really. How do manufacturers balance pushing the envelope with innovation while making sure the tools are fundamentally safe to use?
That's a tricky balance. Okay, so hurdles exist, but despite that, you still feel the future looks pretty bright.
Oh, absolutely. Despite the challenges, the overall outlook is strong. The future of electric power tools is bright, you could say. It's charging ahead.
Nice one. So what trends are driving that optimism?
Well, foremost is that undeniable shift towards cordless and portable tools. It just keeps accelerating.
Freedom from the cord.
Exactly. No more tripping over extension cords, no being tethered to one spot. Today's tools are lighter, rechargeable, designed for mobility.
And that impacts both pros and homeowners.
Massively. It's revolutionizing workflows on job sites, much more freedom, more efficiency, and it's changing habits at home, too. That flexibility is just, well, addictive.
It really is incredible how far cordless tech has come. But I wonder, for the really, really heavy-duty stuff, are some pros still sticking with corded for that constant raw power? Or maybe specialized tasks where batteries just don't cut it yet?
That's a great point. Yes, there are definitely still niches, certain very high-demand applications where corded tools maintain an edge. But honestly, that gap is closing fast. Battery tech and motor efficiency are improving constantly.
Okay, so beyond cutting the cord, what else is coming? You mentioned smart features. IoT integration. What does that actually mean for someone using a drill?
Right, IoT, the Internet of Things. It's fascinating because it essentially turns a physical tool into like a connected data source.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine a drill, right? It doesn't just drill holes. It tracks its own usage, how many hours it's run, maybe what kind of material it's been drilling through. And then based on that data, it could actually predict when it's likely to need maintenance before it breaks down.
Ah, preventative maintenance.
It's exactly. Less unexpected downtime. For a contractor, that's gold. Their tools have to work. Or imagine a tool syncing with a mobile app.
Okay.
Project managers could see which tools are being used where on a big job site, track inventory, maybe even lock tools remotely if they go missing. Optimize how everything's deployed.
Wow, okay. That's more than just bells and whistles then.
Definitely. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's the reality of the smart tool era. It adds real, tangible value, especially in industrial settings where, like we said, time is money and downtime is costly.
Okay, smart tools, cordless dominance. Anything else driving the future?
Yes, one more really strong trend. The industry-wide push for sustainability.
Ah, the green angle. Is that really taking hold in power tools? Makes you wonder, doesn't it, if sustainability is finally moving beyond just being a buzzword.
I think it is, yeah. Consumers are definitely becoming more eco-conscious. They're starting to actively look for and favor brands that use recyclable materials, design energy-efficient motors, use cleaner manufacturing processes.
So being green is actually good for business now.
It's becoming a real competitive advantage, not just a nice-to-have. What's fascinating here is watching environmental responsibility become a core part of market leadership. It's pushing manufacturers to rethink everything, from design to disposal.
Okay, quite a journey. So let's try and wrap this up. What does all this mean for you listening in?
Mm-hmm.
To summarize, it seems the electric power tools market is riding this really powerful wave of growth. You've got huge construction demand, you've got amazing tech innovation happening,
Right, brickless motors, better batteries.
and these big lifestyle shifts like the whole DIY boom we talked about.
But at the same time, manufacturers have to cleverly navigate those challenges we mentioned.
The pricing issues, making tools tough enough for demanding jobs.
Exactly, and meeting those ever stricter health and safety rules, it's a balancing act.
Yeah, it really is. But one thing seems certain, right? This market is charging full speed ahead. The future looks like smarter, cleaner, definitely more connected tools.
No doubt about it.
So, maybe a final thought to leave you with. What really stands out to you about how these incredibly powerful yet increasingly portable helpers are kind of quietly reshaping our homes, our cities, maybe even our daily habits?